Aries 15, an Indian weaving a blanket, presumably a Native American. Why weaving the blanket? Well, to keep warm at night, making a blanket, that's one explanation. Developing the skills of weaving so that there's an ability that you can trade with later, is another explanation. Becoming a better person, a person who can weave and discipline themselves to weave beautiful things, another explanation. Another is to continue the culture. The beauty of one's tribe continues into the future because people do things the way they always have been done and they get passed down, just so we know that we're a part of the wave form, which is our cultural creative expression. So which of these explanations is true? And the answer is all of them. And that's what we're discussing here in this degree. These things, when they're all in alignment, then we're doing the right thing in life. And by implication, really, not unless. So let's take this metaphor into our daily lives. What do we do? What do we do with our day, our minutes that make up the day? Do we create something beautiful that will be remembered as a part of a culture? Do we do that? Do we do something which is useful, that helps us sustain our lives, that develops our skills and in our consciousness as well? How often do we do that? Because maybe we ought to do that a little bit more. Maybe we ought to find a way to align our spiritual consciousness with our material expression and find an occupation where our spiritual nature and our practical nature are indistinguishable. Because the teachings of spiritual philosophy must be realistic, they must be practical, or they're not wise. Wisdom is practical. Wisdom is not philosophy, that's cleverness. Wisdom is practical philosophy in a sense. It's philosophy brought to bear upon the reality in hand. And the wisdom teaches us that we have a task here. We have to survive. We have to survive the cold nights. And so we have to make the blanket to keep warm. And yet we can only do that if we have the skill to do it. And that skill must be passed on to your children or it's lost. And it must be done in a way which is meaningful. And that sense of meaning inevitably gets translated as cultural expression, very often spiritual culture as well. And it's not just a little bit of grace added to the end as an afterthought. The meaning of life is fundamental. It's the fundament, what we build our decisions on. Our motivations, that which gets us moving to deal with problems and to achieve opportunity and create things, our motivations are based on meaning. And the meaning is very often triggered within us by a sense of beauty and cultural significance, sense of honoring the tradition, honoring the elders in the Native American tradition, the ancestors. And so this balance we are looking to find, a complex balance between all of these variables, needs to be taken into our daily way of thinking. Each and everything we do, are we contributing to our culture when we do it? Are we contributing to our well-being? Does it have meaning? If we can bring this level of consciousness to everything we do, then we're living in a state of grace. This is the highest spiritual expression when this is true. If it's not true, then we need to move towards it, really, to make it more and more the case that we do have meaning and practical value and the development of skills in all that we do. And to try to make a life which is expressed as mastery, Now, to get on top of our lives, we need to deal with everything that comes up, deal with it pretty quickly and pretty efficiently, and if possible, beautifully as well. And that means everything. That means paying the milkman for the milk, paying the bills. It means mending broken things in the kitchen. It means making sure the children go to school with their lunch boxes in the right order. And it just means all of this. And to do all of those things in your life excellently well. You've chosen this life because it best represents who you are. And all of the details are other opportunities, additional opportunities to grace who you are with a little bit more expression of creative beauty. As they say, the devil's in the detail, or God is in the detail. And these details are things like the lunchbox and the kitchen tap and so on. It's this sort of everyday and ordinary aspect of life where we can change what would otherwise be dull, lifeless and unimportant and just a tension, an imposition in our sense of what we want to do, really. It would just be an imposition. Instead of making it the central point of our lives, I want my house to be beautiful. So I want to keep on top of the repairing of the faucet and the garden, and I want to do that because I want my house to be beautiful. I want to pay my taxes and repair my car because I want to be a member of the community that's not imposed upon by people knocking on my door for money. I want to be somebody who can drive a car that doesn't break down. I want all of that, and the price for having all of that is due diligence. And I want to practice due diligence because I want that quality. I want to be a responsible person who can be trusted to get the job done. I want these things. It's not an imposition in my life that I have to do them. It's what I've chosen to do. And if you don't see it that way, well, then you're going to see yourself as a victim. Not just now and again, but every day you're going to have to go to work. A place you don't want to go. Well, if you don't want to go there, then stop going there. Take the consequences. If your work does not inspire you some of the time, at least if not most of the time, stop it. Stop going. Find some other way. Now, most people think that they can't do that because they don't have a replacement. And herein lies the secret. You have to give something up in order for the next thing, the better thing, to come along. It won't come along if you don't need it. It is the need for something that attracts it. So if you've got a job, albeit a dull one, you don't need a job, so you can't attract a job. When you give up that which is not okay in life, whether that's a job or a house or a relationship or whatever, until you give it up, you will not attract a better version. And there's a process to go through in that interregnum period. You give something up, you go through your emotional process, and then you get the new thing. You cannot go from bad to good immediately because you need to go through a process to change your habits. We've got these habits of thinking and of behavior that develops because in the mind, the working of the brain, it depends upon synapses, and whenever you think this way and a little bit of calcium is deposited to make it likelier to think that way next time. And if you do that again and again and again and again, the calcium crystallizes, and then you can't think any other way. So all of our behaviors become crystallized if we repeat them unthinkingly many times. If we want to change from one series of behaviors which have become a crystallized, habitual way of being, we have to break those calcium deposits on a physical level, or thought patterns, or emotional neediness, or reflex physical reactions in the body. We have to break those patterns. And that has to be done during a period between times. If you give up A and you don't do that, then you just get A Mark II. If you want B, you have to go through the process of change. So if we don't live our lives excellently well in all of its ways of being, it's because we're not motivated to. And the Indian who's weaving the blanket wants to weave the blanket. She loves weaving blankets. It's what she does, what she really enjoys doing. And it's not boring. It's not mundane. It's not only useful. It's beautiful. Every single blanket is a little bit different from the previous one. And she thinks about giving the blanket to somebody who's going to be warm as a result of that, and who will remember her as having made the blanket because it's beautiful. The whole thing is lovely, and it's the normal human experience. We have to find our way of being like that in life. What we do is irrelevant. It's how we do it. And we have to do it in grace.